Hey guys, I would like to give you a little tutorial on how to draw Muppy Machado. It's pretty simple, and I will show you the steps of how to do it, and I'm here with my very special work assistants. As you can see, this is Pumpkin, and over there is our new kitten, Bucky, and they are very helpful, as you can imagine, with the drawing process. Alright, so this is my workstation. This is where I basically drew the entire graphic novel, Mupp. This is a massive Cintiq that I got as a present. This is a massive Cintiq I got as a present from my grandpa, so it was really game changer for me as an artist. But professionally, I work in Photoshop. It's probably the strongest program for doing illustration work in a digital format. It's just like what you can do with Photoshop is really spectacular. I'm gonna put you down. So basically what I usually do before I start a Photoshop file is I will try and think about how big do I want my drawing to be, and then I just like basically size it to the proportions that I'm looking for. But let's get started. So I already opened up a page for us to work on, and I already got my paintbrush ready. And so let's start. So when you're drawing a character, you kind of want to think about what your character is doing, but I'm going to do a very simple pose of Muppy standing. So usually when I start my drawings, no matter what it is, I usually always end up with a circle. For me, a circle is the foundation of every single drawing I've ever done. That can be like perspective, doing a face, starting a structure, anything. Usually I just like warm up by doing a circle. So I'm going to start with her head. And usually when I do heads, I do this kind of T drawing. I don't really know how to describe it, but it's kind of like, it makes me realize where I want my eyes of my character to be looking. So usually like her eyes will be here and her nose will be here. And you could have a character like looking like away, like this direction. You could have a character looking up, and you could change the direction of the head just basically based off of that T shape that you create. So let's get rid of that. I don't need that. Yeah, they're really annoying. They're cute, but they're annoying. Okay, so let's start. So if Mupp's gonna be standing here, Mupp stands about, I don't know, she's like 2.5 heads tall, basically, roughly. And she kind of has this like cute little square kiddo body that's very like just, she kind of is like a little bean almost, like a little rectangular box. And then I have her legs and her arms. So that's like my generic Muppy shape. So what I'll do now is, these are my foundational drawings, so I will turn the opacity on this layer down and I'll make a new layer. And then in this layer, I will do what you call the line art. And basically for me, the line art, I have a special brush that I use. I think it's just I honestly believe it's a generic Photoshop brush. It's called Kyle Ultimate Inking. I honestly think it's like a default brush. I should probably have a better brush for doing this, but I have yet to find one. I'm very much a learner when it comes to Photoshop. There's still a lot of things that I even don't know. So let's zoom in here. Let's draw Muppy. And usually I like to have my brush at a medium length and thickness. So usually when I draw Mupp, I usually start with her nose first, and I like just kind of, her nose is it's a cute little button nose, so it takes me a minute to really get the sort of design of it down. It kind of changes a lot depending on where she's looking. And then her eyes, her eyebrows are very just kind of simple lines. I've drawn her so many times that for me this is really not that big of a deal, but usually when there's so many different ways you can draw a character's eyes, but for me personally, I like to do a very thick upper line and a lower, kind of thinner underline. And then her pupils here, here, and then you can also just, oops, that's too big. I like to do, sometimes I like to do a little bit of the kind of glare. It just kind of brings the character more to life, I think. And for her mouth, I usually just do a simple line. Kind of takes me a few tries before I like really figure out what it can do. And honestly, like you can do a lot with just a line here. Like you can see, you can have a lot of different facial expressions in just a line. But let's just keep it simple now. Do a cute little smile. So here is her face. Don't really like that. So believe it or not, I started drawing when I was like, I'd say like 5th grade. But I really like didn't really know what I was doing. I was like doing stick figures for the most part until I was about a 7th grader. So I really honestly like was pretty late to the game with art. I really believe that with practice you can become better. I was definitely not the best artist, you know, around or growing up. So you can really honestly, practice makes perfect. I know people say that a lot, but it's really true. So for Muppy, her character, I have these fun like hair floofs. One's bigger and one's smaller. So that's her little face. And then for Muppy's hair, I kind of have one little floof here, a bigger floof here, a bigger floof here, and yeah. So let's draw the rest of her body before I finish her hair. So Muppy wears these cute little like overalls basically. And underneath her overalls, she has this just a regular sort of t-shirt. That's like this red t-shirt. The reason why I made Muppy wear overalls was because I figured she's such a rough and tumbly kid that overalls would really be a good kind of outfit for her because she's kind of running around in the woods like a little crazy person. So here's her sleeves. Her hair honestly changes a lot. Like I feel like every time I draw it, it's looking a little bit different. But that's her generic fluffy hair. And then for her overalls, let's finish these. She's got these like sort of like, I don't really know what you'd call these, like pant sleeves. Anyways, they're basically just rectangulars. And then she has her little pocket right there. Zoom out so you can see that better. I think I'm making her a little bit bigger. I kind of tend to have this problem where I seem to make the heads too big. So I'll just change her shape. Oops. Let's try that again. This is a common problem I've discovered with my drawing, is that I usually end up making characters' heads too big because I'm really kind of focused on their facial expressions. And I kind of, proportion is hard. I may be a professional artist now, but I still get proportion and perspective messed up. So if you have a hard time with that, you're not alone. Okay. And cute little feet. And I personally, this is a secret, I hate drawing feet. I really do. I really also don't like hands. They're really the vein of my existence. So I gave Mupp rain boots, so I don't have to draw her little toes every time. And her shoes. So they're just basically like, basically the equivalent of mitten hands, but for feet. So, and also, she's a little mud-loving little kid, so rain boots were a perfect choice for her sort of outfit. Let's just finish this up here. In Photoshop, I like to make sure that I connect all of my lines, just so that way the coloring process is a lot easier for me. I'll show you next how I color, but let's get her finished up here. Also, I hate drawing hands, so I made Muppy's hands these little, tiny little, like, mitten hands. I always forget which way the thumbs are supposed to go. I think that is correct. Little mitten hands, little buttons. This usually gives me a couple tries before I really figure out the hands. Some days when I'm drawing her character, I've drawn her so many times, I don't even use a foundation line, I just start drawing her. But sometimes I'll actually go in and do like a really good foundational structure before I draw her. Okay, so that's her, basically. Basic Muppy shape, basic Muppy stance. And so what I usually do is, before I begin to color, I will make a whole different layer and put it underneath the layer that I did the line art on, so that way when I color it, it doesn't really mess up the line art. But what you could just like color her in. So now the fun part about coloring her in is she really starts to come to life. And this is my master document of all the colors for all my characters from the story. It even has their older and younger versions. So this is where I get all of Muppy's colors, and here's all of Muppy's outfits, various clothes. The reason why I decided to do this color scheme for Mupp, I was really interested in having her have strong primary colors, because I feel like she doesn't really know like what her style is or what her like, I feel like her identity is. So I feel like having strong primary colors would be a great way to make her stand out, but like be unique at the same time. So here we go. This is a trick I learned from a dear friend from school. Basically, if you're using Photoshop, it's a really great way of doing it, but you can select a shape. I'm selecting inside my line art, and then I go in the layer below. I select Muppy's color. This really speeds up the process. This was like a game changer for me when I was starting out as an artist. And then you can just very easily go in there and see, I didn't select her neck. But usually whenever I'm drawing the character, I'll actually just go in and traditionally just like color it in like old school style like this. Which is, there's nothing wrong with how you color in a character and what kind of process you go for. But this is just one way of doing it. You can either color it in by hand or select objects. So let's get her shirt. But for the process of this video, to speed it up, I'm just gonna do it old school way. Honestly, for me, this has been such a fun project to work on, because Mupp as a character was just such a fun, she's just such a fun kid, she has such fun energy, and she's such like a little kind of crazy cat that she was just, everything that she did was just so much fun to draw, like, because she has such a fun energy. I really, honestly, out of all the characters I've worked with as a writer and as an artist, I think Mupp has honestly been one of my favorite characters, because she's just such a fun, spunky little kid. I kind of, I don't know if you know, but I dedicated the story of Mupp to my sister, who is Mupp. Like, that's her name, that's what we call her. And so her character is basically based off of my sister and I when we were smaller, and we were kind of these like crazy little, you know, munchkins who had a penchant for running around in the woods and causing mischief and big imaginations. So that was a big part of the inspiration for Muppy's character, was basing her off of my sister. So we're almost done here. Now we're just going to do the eyes. And then for me, it was really important for designing her character. I really wanted her to kind of like resemble like the kind of like the forest that she like played in. So I really wanted to give her like this kind of like wild and puffy, crazy hair. But I also really wanted her to like sort of resemble plants in a way. So I gave her some kind of like earthy tones, but I really wanted her eyes to pop. So it was really, it took me a while to figure out exactly what color to go with for her eyes. But I finally settled on having brown hair and green eyes to kind of represent the forest and to help with the story, because it's very important for me personally as a character designer to like think about how my character fits into their world and what their world would, you know, help them look like. That was not proper English, I apologize. Let me try to rephrase that. As a character designer, when you're designing characters to fit into their world, it's a good idea to think about what the world looks like and the color schemes and helping your character fit into that world. So that's why I finally landed on brown hair, green eyes, and like primary colors for her outfit. It was all basically around the idea of how can I make Mupp fit into her world but also stand out at the same time. So that's there she is. Here she is. So that's Mupp, fully colored. My assistants are back to harass me. So basically like you can call it done here, but for me personally, I love to bring out lighting on her character. So basically I'll just do like a shadow. And the way I do that is I'll make another layer on top of my line art, and rascals, I'm telling you. It's amazing I was able to get this book done, honestly. These two have been driving me crazy. So I use this one paintbrush that my friend gave to me. I don't know why, but she named these paintbrushes after Game of Thrones characters, which I find pretty funny. But basically, I'll take a shadow color, and I'll just go in here and give her a little bit of 3 dimension, so she kind of pops. So we'll just go in here and color in some shadow, maybe like under her nose, under her eyes, maybe like under her hair. And this way, she really just kind of comes to life, I think. Yeah, this is one of my favorite parts of creating her character. Any character I'm working on in this book was doing the shadow, because it really just like made them come to life and pop off the page. Here she is. Yay, there she is. Ta-da! There's Mupp. So I know it was very rushed, fast, Photoshop version of how to draw Mupp, but basically the principles are always the same. If you're an artist, definitely start off with doing some like loose sketches. Try to figure out your shape inside your character, your circles, and then from there you can just build, movement, expression, and before long, you'll have a character. And definitely, like, if you're a character designer or you're like thinking about designing your characters or your world, think about how your character fits into the world and how you want them to stand out from their world, because that's the logic that led me to Mupp and her final design, which is what you see right here. All right, thanks for watching. I hope you have fun doodling on your own.